A pleasant good morning to all. Members, it would be remiss of me if I were not at this juncture to make reference to the passing of former President of Cuba, Fidel Castro, who passed away on Friday, November the 25th, at the age of 90. The Cuban leader was a life of purpose, a life of fulfillment and accomplishment. His unwavering spirit, steadfast will and determination brought inestimable inspiration to his people and millions worldwide. Cuba, the region, and the world has lost a stalwart leader and a fearless advocate whose legacy will long outlive his 90 years. And so I would like to invite you to stand as we observe a minute's silence to mark and pay our respects to the fallen leader. Thank you. Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency Secretary General Gomes, Your Excellency Ambassador Len Ishmael, Chair of the Committee of Ambassadors, Excellencies, Ambassadors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you very warm greetings and sunny greetings from the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. No doubt, quite welcome at this time of the year. I am delighted to be here and consider it both an honor for my country and for my region, the Caribbean, to be presiding over the affairs of our 104th Council session during arguably some of the most delicate and uncertain moments as the ACP, in a world itself seemingly full of fluidity, uncertainty, and change. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, our 104th session finds us in a world today more of questions than the certainty of answers. A wave of populism is sweeping not just this continent, but also across the Atlantic, attested by the most recent and bruising of elections in the United States. Globalization, which was to have been the standard bearer of all things, dealing with the principles of sharing and creating wealth across the world, has left many, ironically, in the world's richest of countries, feeling that they have been left behind. We need only to review the results of the recent referendum in the United Kingdom to understand what's at stake. Indeed, the engines of the world trade are delivering trade volumes which today are close to record lows. Increasingly, we are getting the sense of a widening gap and a lack of trust between the people and their leaders. Few things seem certain. Old methods seem no longer to be delivering the results, and new thinking is required if we are to face the future with confidence. These times and the world in which we live are the backdrop against which we must consider with clarity and an urgent sense of purpose the future of the ACP group, our group. We know that the foundations on which this group was built decades ago were unassailable. They were built on the principles of solidarity, allowing us to face the world together, secure in the knowledge that we were brothers and sisters in arms, working together for the independence which we yearned, united around a common vision. My colleagues, times have changed. Our independence has brought with it the prize of freedom to choose and chart our own course and our destiny. But that freedom has never been one dislocated from the reality of the world order in which we live, and which constrains and shapes the choices which we can exercise. If the world has changed, so must we. It is with this in mind that I view the period which lies ahead as we seek to negotiate a new relationship with Europe post-Cotonou, that I am filled with a certain sense of clarity of purpose, that we must use this period as an opportunity to identify, to protect, and to project our own interests and build the very best mechanisms and institutions which we can and will support. I am more than heartened by the initiative displayed by our Committee of Ambassadors, who have understood that this period demands of us bold action. Their recent retreat in early November was one in which they took the initiative to interrogate 3 issues which stand at the very heart of our future. The issue of political commitment, that of the future of the ACP, and that of the relationship between the ACP and the EU post-Cotonou. I'm comforted that they are also looking at these issues and accord to them the urgent ventilation which is required, because they are all matters of unique and pressing concern, especially at this time, and I commend them for this initiative and look forward with great interest to debate these matters over the next few days. I must say as well that I am seized with the knowledge that at the political level, we must do more to support the work of the ACP, to be visible at its meetings, and to honor our obligations to the institution and its organs. In return, we expect and we want an institution which is closely aligned to our interests, which is supportive and in a position to offer real expertise, guidance, and scholarship to us in our work. Reform of the ACP Secretariat and review of the working methods of the organization in pursuit of the delivery of results are no longer matters on which we should be exercising discretion. They must be undertaken with every degree of urgency which is required at this time. And I look forward to our discussions on these matters at the appropriate time on this agenda. Since our last session, earlier this year in April in Dakar, many of our member states continue to face serious challenges to our development efforts and our aspirations, be they natural or be they man-made. On the economic front, significant declines in the world market price of oil and other commodities of vital significance to the export sectors of our member states continue to constrain the availability of resources with which to finance development programs. And increasingly, we are being advised by the action plans of many of the world's most recent summits, including, for example, that of the Addis Action Plan for financing of development as well as multilateral institutions, that we must increasingly look at domestic resources in an effort to finance our development. But we must look at the realities on the ground. In economies such as mine, which are so open and so small, where the cost of sending remittances back home from our diaspora so high, where we are in real danger of really losing relationships with correspondent banks, threatening our ability to buy and sell services, where regionally we are still struggling to recover from the international financial collapse of 2009. The prospects of financing development from domestic resources increasingly look bleak. And yet, when new ACP mechanisms are being articulated to provide support to our country's post-natural disasters, as we see in the negotiations on the way, with respect to the revision of Annex 2 of the Cotonou Agreement, we are being told that our countries are ineligible. In the Caribbean and in the Pacific, we live the everyday reality of the threat posed by hurricanes, posed by cyclones, and our vulnerability to natural hazards and our increasing exposure to climate change-related disasters are well documented yearly. Our brothers and sisters on the continent of Africa continue as well to be so affected. The phenomenon of migration, internally displaced persons and refugees continue to drain the scarce resources of many of our member states, not only from hosting some of the world's largest refugee camps, but also in the loss of the cream of our populations, our youth. These shared challenges, to my mind, naturally constitute some of the focus areas of the ACP group should coalesce around going forward. Let me hasten to say, however, that there are also some bright lights in our ACP story. On the political front, many of us have already successfully held elections this year, and transitions have been smooth. At the United Nations General Assembly in September, the Republic of Fiji took over the presidency of the Assembly from another ACP country, the Republic of Uganda, underscoring the significant role the ACP member states are playing in the international arena. As we speak, the Republic of Senegal is chairing arguably the most important international body of all, the United Nations Security Council. These developments underscore the considerable potential of the ACP as a group, and we must find a way to translate our numerical strength into a political force that underwrites our interests on the global stage. But this will require collective, sustained, and purposeful action on the part of the political level. My colleagues, ministers, excellencies, allow me to say a few words regarding the future of our group. You would recall that at the 7th Summit in 2012 in Malaba, Equatorial Guinea, our heads of states and government resolutely reaffirmed our determination to stay united as a group, grounded in the values of peace and solidarity, unified action, and the identity that characterizes us on the basis of the Georgetown Agreement. The 7th Summit also took note of the setting up of the Ambassadorial Working Group, as well as plans to create a group of eminent persons to enhance reflection on the vision, mission, organization, and response of the ACP group to ever-changing global challenges. At our 96th session in Malibu in December of 2012, Council took the decision for the eminent persons group to report to us and to the heads of state and government at the end of its mandate in 2014. At our 100th session in December of 2014, we took the decision to approve the final report of the Ambassadorial Working Group and instructed the Committee of Ambassadors to forward the report and our observations to the Eminent Persons Group. At the 8th Summit in June of this year, our heads of state and government took the decision to take note and accept the report of the Eminent Persons Group and mandate the Council of Ministers, subject to the outcomes of the consultations at regional and at national levels, to put in place implementation modalities for recommendations of the EPG report by the end of 2016, and then report to the summit thereafter. Colleagues, the mandate is clear. Our session will have to take important decisions on the future of the group, and there lies the significance of our 104th Council session. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, let me turn to our relations with our principal interlocutor, the European Union. As you are aware, reflections on the nature of the relationship between the ACP Group and the EU after 2020 have been on the way since last year. And Article 95 of our Cotonou Partnership Agreement gives both parties until August of 2018 to engage in formal negotiations. The high-level event on ACP-EU relations, held in Dakar in April, jointly organized by the Secretariat and the European Commission, provided an excellent opportunity for an informed exchange of views on this important subject. It was just a few days ago the European Parliament debated and pronounced on the future of the relations between the EU and our group. During this council, we will also have the opportunity of an exchange of views on the subject with the European Commissioner for Development. Time is moving and moving along. It is, however, important to remind ourselves that the context within which the current ACP-EU Cotonou Partnership Agreement was negotiated in the late 90s is markedly different from the situation in which we find ourselves today. Since then, membership of the European Union has expanded from 15 to 28, with many of the new members having little or no historic, economic, or geographic ties to the ACP countries. Further, priorities of both sides have evolved during this period. These developments signal the need to urgently engage with the new EU member states, strengthen and to deepen consultations and cooperation with our regions and our capitals, and diversify our partnerships. Honorable Members, Excellencies, it would be remiss of me if I concluded my statement without mentioning Brexit and its implications for our group. In 1973, the United Kingdom joined the then European Economic Community, the EEC, which broadened Europe's policy development focus to include some Commonwealth countries. For many of these countries, our principal trading partner within the EU is the UK, which is also the source of many of our tourists. Furthermore, the UK contributes almost 15% to the European Development Fund. That fund finances the implementation of the provisions of the Cotonou Partnership Agreement. What, therefore, will be the impact of the UK leaving the European Union on the ACP Group? And how can we mitigate this impact? These questions need to be tackled sooner rather than later. And I'm very happy to see this pressing item on our Council's agenda. Indeed, I must note my own pleasure in seeing this agenda which is before us, because it contains many matters of vital interest and importance to our future, and I commend it to us all. Honorable Ministers, Excellency, we have a full agenda before us. So allow me to conclude my statement by thanking the Chair of the Committee of Ambassadors, my own ambassador, Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Len Ishmael, for her leadership and for her support to the work of the ACP at this time, as well as the Committee of Ambassadors as a whole for the work undertaken to implement the decisions we made during our previous sessions and for their guidance with respect to the way forward. Our appreciation also extends to the staff members of the Secretariat, led by the Secretary General Gomes, who continue to provide the technical support that is indispensable for the Committee of Ambassadors to prepare for our meetings and implement our decisions. We are truly appreciative of their efforts. I thank you once again and wish us all successful deliberation.